Welcome, ad nauseum listeners. Episode 213. Here we are. Time to do the podcast. Like that Dunkin' Donuts commercial.
Oh, yeah.
I already did the podcast.
Time to make the donuts.
I already made the donuts. And then the guy ends up running into himself. Remember that?
I don't remember that.
He's going in and out so frequently, he opens a door and then he runs into himself on the way back.
Oh, man.
They don't make ads like they used to.
No.
You know what else they don't make like they used to, Jeff?
What's that?
Scholarship.
Scholarship?
Yes.
So we're talking about the stuff we're talking about today.
Marrou.
Marrou, yeah.
They don't do that like they do anymore.
That's true. That's true.
And that's what we're going to do today.
That's right.
So it's time to do it.
Welcome to the Ad Nauseam Podcast, where classical gourmands everywhere can finally get their fill. Join us for a delectable discussion of Greco-Roman civilization stretching from the Minoans and Mycenaeans through the Renaissance and right down to the present. And now, ladies and gentlemen, here are your hosts, Dr. David Noe and Dr. Jeff Winkle.
Welcome, ad nauseum listeners, to episode 213. Now with sincere enthusiasm.
It sounds pretty sincere there.
Oh, that's sincere. So much sincerity you can spread it with a knife.
That's right. I'm feeling it.
Are you?
Yeah.
I was about to ask you. Jeff, how are you feeling today?
I'm feeling great. You know, I came in here wanting to complain about that month that we don't mention.
Yes, but there's so much sunshine.
It's beautiful. I heard birds chirping and the sun was glinting off of what's remained of the snow.
Very glinty.
It was wonderful. Yeah.
You want a measure of just how absurd we are?
Okay.
I was once again going through old episodes, preparing these blog posts with the help of the AI.
Yes.
In order to serve our valuable listeners. Mm-hmm. And it was an episode from September of, I believe, 2023.
Okay.
And guess what we were talking about in September?
The same stuff we're talking about right now?
We were dreading the approach of Smarch.
In September?
In September.
Wow, that seems a little early to start dreading the Smarch.
I thought, these knuckleheads, what in the world? And people listen to this stuff.
That's crazy. It's crazy, exactly.
But what are we talking about today? Let's tell them.
Yes.
We did in the little intro, but let's tell them a little bit more before we get to the housekeeping.
Yeah, so we are returning to this wonderful book by Mr. Marrou.
Yes, Henri Irénée.
On ancient education, right? So we are slowly but surely making our way through this very impressive, dense tome. Yeah. And how many episodes of Marrou have we done?
Many.
Yeah.
Yes, I don't know. It's getting close to 20.
Okay.
Yeah. Don't ask for whom the bell tomes. Yeah. It tomes for you.
And I believe we're now maybe a sixth of the way through the book.
No. A solid half.
Solid half. Okay.
Because as soon as there's no facetiousness in that, Dr.
Well, I'm just thinking about we got 20 more episodes to go on.
A ways.
Okay, yeah.
Because as soon as we finish this one, which is the conclusion to the Greek, we're going to turn, dare I say,
don't say it.
Okay. To Roman education.
Yeah.
So this is a watershed moment within the long-running series within the Inconsequential Podcast.
Gotcha.
So just to bring everyone up to speed.
Right.
So today is Marrou. This is going to be the conclusion of part 2, and the subject is classical humanism.
Right. And so in this chapter, what we're going to cover today, Marrou, in some ways, he kind of summarizes everything that he has in the first half, and then tries to kind of tie it puts a nice little bow on it.
Nice. Yeah. I was going to go in the same direction with a fabric-based analogy.
Oh, yeah?
I was going to say, in the same way that Penelope, or as I first learned her name from the Sesame Street version of the tale, Penelope, played by Bert, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Penelope, what she would do was weave the shroud during the day, unweave it at night.
Yes.
So what we have been doing, as we have been the nighttime Penelopes, unweaving the shroud that Marrou's put together. Now, in this portion, the conclusion, he's going to pull it all back together, and we'll finally bury Laertes.
We can see the nice illustrated tapestry.
That's right.
Gotcha.
Well done.
Yep.
But first, we have a little bit of housekeeping.
We do. Are we going to mention the book giveaway?
Yes, we are.
All right. So, as if you've been listening lately, you know that we are giving away via one of our sponsors, Hackett Publishing, this volume, or this complete set of Aristotle.
Yeah, 2 volumes.
2 volumes, yep.
The second set we've given away. The first set was a little bit nicer, and so that was managed through Hackett's own website because it included the slipcase.
Slipcase.
Which is in a color very similar to that quarter zip that you are wearing.
A burgundy?
Kind of a burgundy, almost a royal purple.
Yeah.
Now, this one doesn't come with its own quarter zip case, but you can take the 2 volumes, you can make your own slipcase. The content is fantastic. Yes. And here's how you can get in the drawing to win it.
Yes. Well, you need to write to Dave. You can reach him at dave@adnauseam.com. Don't forget the V in Nauseam. And if you write this secret code word in the subject line, Kontos.
Well, where did we come up with Kontos?
Well, he's one of the editors of the volumes. He's the guy that you can never remember.
Oh, that's right. So it's CDC Reeve and Pavlos Kontos.
Kontos. Kontos. Put that in the subject line, and you will be entered in the drawing for this great giveaway.
And we are getting quite a few entrants now.
Excellent.
And if you want to get a personalized email response from me, as every entrant does, this is what I typically say.
Okay.
I say, don't tell anyone, but as I say to all the participants in the entrance, I'm secretly rooting for you.
Nice. I love the pandering.
Thank you. The drawing is going to be on March 12.
Coming up.
Which is about 10 days from now.
10 days from this recording.
We have something else to deal with here, as I see in the script.
What else
well, I was posed a question from academia.edu. Do you see that question they posed?
I do see this. And they write to you, David, is this publication yours? Help us keep your profile up to date.
Well, I definitely want to keep my profile up to date.
Right. And then there's a link to this article.
Yeah, there's nothing worse than an outdated profile.
Right.
I'm walking down the sidewalk and someone sees me in an oblique fashion rather than head on.
Right.
And they think, that guy's profile is so outdated.
It's so outdated. Right?
Correct.
So you want to keep it sharp.
Sharp, crisp, the jawline.
Well, the article that they're asking about, David, this is one, and I think that this does sound like one of your greatest hits.
It was written by David C. Noe in 2004.
Okay.
Did you see that?
Yeah.
I was kicking around. In fact, it was 1 year after I earned my PhD.
So you were.
It's possible.
You were writing things.
Yeah. So what is the title of that?
The title of this article is Geotechnical Characterization of the Steeply Dipping Pierre Shale.
Some words are just funny, you know.
Oh my
I've never dipped steeply in any kind of an academic setting.
No,
but this
let alone Pierre Shale. Pierre Shale.
Steeply dipping Pierre Shale. How do they put these words together?
This is crazy.
In short, no, this is not my publication. This is the other very successful geologist named David C. Noe, who is somewhere in Colorado and spits out one high-quality article pretty much every year.
Really?
With an ever more interesting and difficult-to-pronounce title.
Yeah. Well, I can smell the desperation of this guy trying to get tenure.
That's right. So he's sitting around thinking, I got to write an article about shale, which is some kind of layered rock, if I'm not mistaken. Sometimes it has oil in it.
That's how I think of it.
Okay, and then Pierre Shale, there's the connection to Marrou. They're both French names.
Okay.
Are we wandering?
Pierre, maybe this is out in South Dakota, perhaps?
Sounds good.
Okay.
It dips steeply, though. That's all I know.
And he's interested in characterizing it in a geotechnical fashion.
Correct.
Oh man!
Yeah,
I got one.
Who was that guy? His paper products?
Yeah.
The Jeffrey Winkle who writes,
exactly.
who's putting you to shame in terms of his paper production?
Something like this. I've mentioned this on the program before. Another one of these is are you the Jeffrey T. Winkle writing these articles about paper towels?
Yeah,
and it is not me.
It isn't. Well, that's too bad.
It is too bad.
Maybe on another occasion.
Yeah.
Well, without further ado, let's get into Marrou. And Jeff, why don't you read a portion of that opening paragraph from Marrou in order to get us started?
Yes. We have now examined the main elements in the education of classical Greece. With the help of the historical background outlined in part 1 of this book, the reader will have had no difficulty in plotting each new point of technical development in its proper position relative to the previous points.
I would think that's because we've done so many episodes.
Yes, I think so too.
I don't think I don't think a point exists that we haven't plotted.
It's true.
Okay. Continue, please.
He continues, yes. He will have seen how residual characteristics like gymnastics and music, which had originated in the old aristocratic education, quickly became recessive. How others that appeared later, such as the study of language and literature, came to the fore, and in doing so grew more complex and more widely differentiated, indeed were utterly changed. how the art of oratory abandoned its original practical preoccupations for the more aesthetic values of formal eloquence, only to discover a new kind of political function and political value in doing so. And then he poses this question in this paragraph. Does this mean that our work is ended as far as the Hellenistic period is concerned, and that all we have to do now is pass straight on to the generations that came after and study the last stages of this evolution?
Oh, no.
He answers yes, and that's the end of the chapter.
No, that's it. Not true. No. We have a good 200-some pages left because he's got to pivot, there I said it, to Roman education, but he's going to sum up classical humanism.
Yeah.
Now, raised as a Christian young man, one of the bogeymen, right, the buzzwords that was thrown around quite a bit is humanism.
Mm-hmm.
And do you remember hearing it characterized in a negative way many times?
I do.
Yes.
Yes, I do.
What kind of an impression did it give?
Well, I mean, the impression that I came away with is that it was it could all be reduced to the worship of the self. Right. And I think that even comes out a little bit in Marrou's this chapter here.
It does. Yep. It does. I always like to put with it, as I think I've mentioned before on this show, the qualifier secular.
Yeah.
Secular humanism is a kind of humanism that is actually a contradiction in terms, because secular means tied to a particular age, and humanism claims to be transgenerational.
True.
So I can and you can interface with the thought of Cicero, Apuleius, Plato, if we learn how to speak their language.
Yeah.
And so we're actually transcending, in some ways, our own moment in time. But secular humanism is a different creature.
Right. I mean, I would say that I think when most people hear the term secular, they don't think in terms of like given to us a period of time. They think non-religious.
Exactly.
Right. So,
and it does come to mean that.
Yeah.
Because secular humanism does come to mean, as you say, completely devoid of any religious sensibility.
Right.
But then it wasn't until I got to undergrad and then graduate school that I learned about true humanism, which I believe is what Marrou is talking about. And this is the kind that is defined by the Roman poet Terence, right? Homo sum. I'm a human being. I consider nothing human foreign to me.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
I won't bore you with the Latin, but that idea kind of took hold, and it's really quite gripping.
Yeah.
So when we do our ad runs for Hackett, right, we say things like, they don't just have, we'll say them later, so stay tuned, audience. They don't have just the classics, but you can study the history of the samurai or South American politics. Many, many things in which I have only a slight interest.
Yeah.
But I think part of what it means to grow as a thinker is to actually increase your curiosity and your capacity. What do you think of that?
No, I look at it a lot. In fact, as you're describing this, it reminds me a lot of what Marrou tackles in this particular chapter. In fact, I wish that Marrou had used the term curiosity, because I think that's embedded in this. I mean, he talks so much about how the goal of Hellenistic education was to produce people who had kind of a jack of all trades approach to life, and that in whatever situation you found yourself in, your education would have prepared you to be successful in whatever.
Right. So kind of the intellectual equivalent of that really popular hand tool from about 15 years ago. The Leatherman.
The Leatherman.
Do you remember that?
I have a Leatherman.
You do?
I do.
I don't think I ever got one, but they were so popular.
Yeah, I think I got one as a Christmas gift.
Correct.
It's in my toolbox.
It can do practically anything.
Yeah, or like a Swiss Army knife.
Yes. But this was the Swiss Army knife after going to the gym for 4 or 5 years, right?
Right, exactly.
It had things I had never even knew could be a tool.
Right.
And so it seems to be that this is what Marrou is saying, Greek education in particular developed a man into. Mm-hmm. You're an extremely versatile individual and deliberately unspecialized.
Right. And not only that, but in many ways deeply suspicious of specialization.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So let's go into the first part then of this concluding chapter, which is entitled History and Value. Marrou says, page 217, history is not merely a monotonous series of events linked together one after the other throughout inexorable time. So this put me in mind of the famous Henry Ford quote.
That's exactly what I thought of too.
Which is, history is just one blank thing after another.
Right.
But this is a guy who invented the mass assembly line.
Right, which was just one thing after another.
Great for commoditization, not great for, I would say, the promotion of curiosity.
Indeed.
But then Marrou continues, it is not enough to know that Hellenistic education took on a certain form as a result of certain antecedent happenings and as a prelude to certain further happenings. You got to wonder about the translation there.
Yes,
that's a vague.
That's been my one gripe with this. With this series. Yeah.
Okay. There needs to be a pause for consideration, says Marrou. Hellenistic education is not simply something that has passed away. It has been. It has had being, and we cannot consider ourselves to have finished with it until we have made some attempt to ponder its essence and understand its values.
I was curious about what exactly he means here, but so I thought, this is his thesis.
Sure.
I mean, is he saying that it has been, it has had being? Is he implying that it's still out there, and we still need to kind of grapple with its legacy?
I think in part, as I read this, I assess it in two ways. Okay. First, it could well be that when Marrou reached this point in the book, his editor said, "Before you go on to Roman education, you need to sum all of this up, because maybe the reader, the editor, to the extent that this happened at the time, was feeling a little bit like we are, buried under the mass of delicious and extraordinary detail.
Yeah,
just so much of it.
Right.
So maybe the editor said, you really need to try to sum this up. Yeah. So this is Marrou's effort. The second thought I had is borrowed actually from Werner Jaeger and his 3-volume work Paideia, The Ideals of Greek Civilization, in which Jaeger says words to this effect. The very notion of civilization was invented by the Greeks. So obviously Confucian culture had a kind of literature and a way of seeing things. Other world cultures had a certain way of seeing things, the Persians, the Assyrians, the Egyptians. But Jaeger's claim is that civilization as a connected whole is a Greek idea that then 19th century historians imposed upon other cultures.
Ah, okay.
And so when Marrou says something like this here about, it had being, it had essence, I kind of see it in that way, right? So Greek education was a thing unto itself. We have to try to grasp its essence before we move on.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
Does that seem persuasive at all?
That's very helpful.
Okay, so what does he say next?
He says, and it is worth it, for this education was not merely a transitory form, one moment in a continuous evolution. It was the stable, mature form in which the whole educational effort of antiquity was realized. I mean, that's a huge claim.
It is.
Yep. The climax of 7 centuries of creative effort. It was like the flat top of a curve, a long level stretch lasting many generations, during which its educational methods peacefully enjoyed undisputed authority.
Yeah. So I think that's the telltale quote, in the sense that it's hard for us to understand just how much this way of thinking influenced all subsequent centuries.
Yeah.
And so it's my impression Marrou wants to pinpoint or underline this before he moves on to the Romans.
Gotcha.
Many of the things we just take for granted, right? They came to fruition and they lasted an extraordinarily long time.
Yes.
But Jeff, do you think Marrou is saying that somehow this ought to be imitated by every generation?
No, I thought this was one of my favorite parts in the article too. I think someone could approach a book like this and maybe just assume that he's a scholar of this stuff and he is he's a cheerleader.
Correct.
And saying this is the way it ought to be now. But that's not Marrou's take. He writes on page 218, this does not mean, of course, that I should claim that the classical ideal can be the standard for every possible kind of education, and that we must all imitate it. In fact, later on in the chapter, he talks about how Hellenistic education became a kind of one-size-fits-all.
Correct.
Right? And
so this is kind of sounding like Tocqueville from last week.
Yeah.
Maybe it isn't for everybody.
Yeah.
Can you carry on there, please?
In the first place, I am not at all sure about this. And secondly, any such opinion is out of place in a work of history. All I mean is that the ideal is still with us, either as a model to be copied or as an error to be avoided. It still exists, at least for educated people who have been able to appreciate and understand it, as an idea which modern thought must be either for or against. Contact with it is always rewarding, whether we accept it unquestioningly or resist the temptation to do that and subject it to our own rational analysis. Right. So, he's saying Rudy's saying, whatever you think about it, it has value.
Yeah.
If you're going to wrestle with it, it has value. If you imitate it, it's going to have value.
If you're going to reject it, it has value.
Right.
It's a touchstone.
But he says his job as a historian is not to come down on either side.
Right. And just at the end of that section, I like this quote. He says, I expect the philosophical reader will want me to give a word to describe the essence of this education. I suggest that we use the old word, humanism. However overworked it has been, properly explained, it can still be of use. For the ideal at which Hellenistic education aimed can certainly be described as humanistic from many different points of view, all of which are quite legitimate.
Now remind me, what year was this published?
That would be 1956.
56.
Translated by your buddy George Lamb.
Yeah, okay. I'm going to leave Lamb out of it.
Okay. Next section. And this is entitled what, Jeff?
This is entitled Man, Not Child, the Standard.
This is really interesting.
This is, yeah. Read a bit at the beginning of this, would you?
Okay. He says, in the first place, the whole aim of this humanistic education was the formation of adults, not the development of the child. There is no point in being led astray by etymology. I know quite well that paideia contains the word pais, but this needs to be translated as, quote, the treatment to which a child should be subjected to turn him into a man. As we saw, the Latins happily translated paideia as humanitas. That's interesting. Yeah. They didn't associate it with childhood at all,
right?
But the kind of training that takes you out of childhood and makes you ready to be a full-grown adult.
Right, exactly. And the root of the word education, to draw out, right?
Correct.
To lead out.
Yep. Can you continue there, please?
Yes. Hence, as we have seen in passing, the utter absence of, the utter lack of interest in child psychology. Hence, the absence of anything approximating to our infant schools. Hence, the abstract analytical character of all the quote and unquote exercises. Hence the barbaric severity of the discipline. Mm-hmm. I thought this is quite interesting. So when I read this, it made me think of the famous detail in Sparta,
right,
where the young boys would be sent off to the barracks to become soldiers at age 8,
right,
whatever. And but lest we think that's like so crazy and out of the ordinary, in some ways, if you think about the children being educated in Athens,
right,
it's a similar kind of idea.
Correct.
They're not being babied and teased out for their psychology. It's like, right, no, we're kind of throwing you into the mix so you can become men, right? It's just it's the same idea but in a different context.
Absolutely. And when I read it, I was put in mind of the very famous quote that we have mentioned before by George Orwell, Eric Arthur Blair, who is the author, of course, of 1984, and what's the other great one I'm not remembering?
Animal Farm.
Animal Farm, which is I like better than 1984, much better.
Yeah.
He said words to this effect: I'm not sure classical education is possible without corporal discipline. He hated it. He hated getting beaten routinely and otherwise penalized because he couldn't remember his Latin and his Greek.
Yeah.
And yet, as we mentioned before also, the strength of his style is in part because he had such a superb training in these sorts of texts.
Yes, true.
But the proper metaphor is not the one of creating a safe space for children to be children,
yeah,
and then they can learn something also. It's really agricultural, right? Children are in embryo the full-grown adult, so they have to be constantly watered and pruned and weeded and all of that kind of stuff,
yeah,
so that they grow. I'm not endorsing it. I'm trying to explain really what I think Marrou is saying here.
Right, right. So I don't think in childhood education in Antiquity did they have recess?
I doubt it.
Yeah, unless it was to compete on the athletic field.
Correct.
Right.
Did you compete at recess?
We did. Yeah,
you play sports and games and
marbles.
Correct.
Yeah.
Marbles, really, Jeff? Was this 1935?
My school was very old school.
Wow. Says Marrou, one cannot feel confident that if the Greeks could have known the endeavors that psychology and education have been making ever since Emile was written, to adapt themselves to the child and the special characteristics of his mind, they would have responded with anything but amused surprise. What is the point, the Greeks seem to say, of concentrating on the child as though he were an end in himself? Apart from the few unlucky children who are condemned to a premature death, the only point of childhood is that it leads to manhood. And the proper object of education is therefore not any slobbering child or awkward adolescent, or even an up-and-coming young man, but man, and man alone. And the only point of education is to teach the child to transcend himself. That makes you pretty uncomfortable when you read it.
Yeah.
It's so different than how it's
so considered today. Out of step with almost every notion of childhood education today.
Even very strict notions would not say something like this.
Right.
Imagine saying to a classroom of children, okay, you're nice, you're a good start, but in terms of full-grown humanity, totally deficient.
Yeah.
Right? What we want to do is get you out of this stage as successfully as possible so you can become real full-grown people.
Right, right.
So unusual.
Right, yeah. One of the stats that's tossed around a lot is the human brain isn't fully formed, or something cortex is informed until you're 25
or 27, I've heard.
Something like that.
The smarter you are, the longer it takes.
So should we consider people under 27, are they still children?
I don't know.
Right?
They're still on my insurance policy. No, just kidding. They're not.
Oh, man. Yeah.
It's that kind of thing. You're familiar with the Montessori school movement, right?
My wife went to Montessori for the first 6 years.
Wow. What was that experience like?
She really enjoyed it. And
it's student-directed, right?
It is.
They direct the learning.
Right. And so, I mean, when she's talked about it, she talks about it mainly in terms of like when she went into 7th grade and she was put in the local public school, how jarring that was.
I'm sure.
And it was a massive adjustment.
Right.
Yeah. But she really liked she really seemed to have kind of blossomed in Montessori and kind of self-directed.
I've heard many good things about it for certain people. I bring it up because it seems like the complete antithesis of this Greek idea. They would be horrified by it.
Yeah.
So then the next section, right? What is the whole man? What does Marrou have to say about that?
It says, classical Greece wanted education to concern itself with the whole man, and here for a change we find it in agreement with the modern outlook, which also insists that education and training should be general, in reaction against the overemphasis on instruction, that is, development of the intellectual faculties only. Yes, said the Greeks, the whole man, body and soul, sense and reason, character and mind. Do you agree with Marrou there that idea is in step with our current modes of education? I mean, has things changed since 1956?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. When I was coming through school in the 1980s at these levels, K-12, I would have said very much so. I remember going into gym class, and you have to take the presidential fitness.
Yeah.
You remember that?
I do.
It was something Reagan put together, I think. So he surveyed the American landscape and thought,
found it wanting.
The Winkles and the Noes out there, they can't do a single push-up, right? Let's get these guys in the gym and doing something.
Yeah.
I remember we had one young man in my grade school who was in training to be a professional gymnast.
Oh, wow.
He's quite good. But this kid could do something like 75 consecutive push-ups.
Really?
Yes.
Sheesh.
And, I mean, that was, what could I do? I could spell. That was my secret superpower.
Yeah. I remember getting, if you pass the test, you get the patch.
I know.
That was my motivation.
The much coveted patch.
I wanted that patch.
How many patches did you get?
I think I got it every year.
Really, Winkle?
I lost sleep. It made me so nervous.
Wow.
Yeah.
Huh. So I would say in the 1980s, yes, but I think now, I don't know exactly what the landscape is like, but I don't think there's a general expectation that everyone would have some baseline athleticism.
Yeah.
I think that would probably be seen as inherently discriminatory.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with that.
And in this context of focus on both mind and body, we find Marrou saying that the Greeks criticized the notion of the professional athlete.
Yeah.
You see that part at the bottom of 219? Can you take us through some of that, please?
Sure. Marrou writes, and though the emphasis on sport, as in the case of the professional athlete, was sometimes severely criticized, this was not so much the result of a prejudice in favor of pure intellectualism as a consequence of the traditional field of a complete man, whose faculties were harmoniously balanced, an ideal that was denied by specialized training, whose one aim was to produce track champions.
Yeah.
Right. So again, there's that animus against specialization.
Right.
But I would say, still thinking about, compared to our contemporary era, is talking about gym class.
Right.
There is that popular notion that gym class is by definition unserious.
Yes, we've talked about this before.
Exactly.
I guess we both have either fond memories or nightmares about gym class.
Yes, exactly. So, but I think I'm going to repeat a joke.
Yes.
This is, those who can't do teach, and those who can't teach gym.
Oh my. But gym is where dodgeball took place.
Yes. Yeah.
What a fun sport. You got to throw things as hard as you could at other people and then try to dodge their attempts to do the same.
It was kind of a playful Darwinism on display.
I would say Lord of the Flies.
Yes, right.
Lord of the Rubber Balls.
Yeah.
In the same way, on page 220, says Marrou, general culture endeavored to combine the advantages of a grounding in both literature and mathematics. This longing for human wholeness is nowhere more evident than in the violent conflict that went on between the two rival forms of higher culture, rhetoric and philosophy. Both derived equally and essentially from the old culture. The dialogue between the two, which could be so bitter and tense, is its chief characteristic. We must realize that Hellenistic man would hesitate before making the difficult choice. that is, between rhetoric and philosophy. The decision would not be made without some feelings of regret and an attempt to synthesize the two.
Right. So if I'm remembering correctly, when we covered this aspects in previous chapters, the rhetoric, Marrou goes on to say that in the battle between Isocrates and Plato, Isocrates is the winner.
Absolutely.
And so rhetoric, it was more practically aimed.
Yes.
How can I win,
right,
fill in the blank, where philosophy was much more kind of the ideal.
This is the kind of life you ought to lead.
Yeah.
However, Isocrates would never yield the ground that he was not a philosopher.
Exactly.
He would say, I am a philosopher. I'm just a practical one.
Yeah.
The things I teach are actually valuable. Whereas what Plato teaches is abstruse and removed from all utility.
Yes.
Now, when you get on to the time of Cicero, which, we will in the book later on, he takes aim at this. He takes issue with it, and he says the really mature thinker, and he's kind of pointing at himself, combines high philosophical abstraction and introspection with the ability to communicate in a brilliant and gripping fashion.
Yes.
And he mentions a few individuals. Demetrius of Phalerum is one in particular that he says combines these two.
Right.
But Marrou's point is just that the conflict never ended.
Yeah.
To be the whole man, you shouldn't have to choose between rhetoric and philosophy, but they did.
Yes, exactly. No, I think that's fascinating. I mean, he's also saying here, too, is that the fact that they were in conflict was kind of the essence of the game, right? That forced both sides to kind of sharpen their own claws.
That's right. Then at the bottom of 220, before we get to the next section, I really like what Marrou has to say here. He writes, as we have seen, the only kind of Hellenistic education that succeeded in combining gymnastics, music, letters, science, and art, i.e. the education that was provided by the aristocratic ephebia, only managed to do so by substituting for real knowledge a frivolous, superficial smattering of knowledge that was no more than a caricature of any genuine humanism.
TED Talks.
Exactly.
Right?
I like a good TED Talk.
Of course.
Come on.
But, I mean, it as a replacement for grueling,
real learning?
Real learning.
Nice.
Right. That doesn't work.
That is so apropos, Winkle. But the fruitfulness of any ideal is not to be judged simply by the comparative proliferation of its practical achievements, that is, how many likes it gets.
Yeah.
The nostalgia and disquiet and regret that remain in the depths of the heart after the perfect ideal has been glimpsed and then so imperfectly realized in practice are also a kind of presence. Even though Hellenistic man never in fact became a total being, nevertheless he never forgot that such was his ideal, and he never willingly gave it up.
Well, there's something noble in that.
You think so?
I think so. I mean,
I'm going to set out to be a perpetual failure.
I think, and being honest about your own limitations, but also to say this is the ideal that I keep, that I'm reaching for.
I'm guessing that you can relate to that. I mean, in terms of music.
Oh, sure.
Right.
Absolutely.
That would seem like a place where it would have a special purchase, kind of.
Yeah.
Because you're trying to imitate, in some sense, while still being original,
right, some
of the great artists, performers that you like.
Right.
But you can't beat yourself up if you can't attain their heights.
Exactly. You can't take that as an invitation to despair.
I see.
Right, which on some level you would say, well, this is an unattainable ideal, so why bother?
So have you ever written a song that you like as much as you like one by, say, Billy Joel, Elton John, Paul McCartney?
Yeah.
You have?
I do, yeah.
Okay.
I would say that I personally...
That you like as much.
I like as much, right. I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't make that claim for anybody else.
Interesting.
But yeah.
Have you ever written any that you think others should like as much?
That's not for me to say. Right, I can't...
But there's just the two of us in this room.
Right. I'm not one to say, like, you should like this song.
I see.
It's the subjectivity of art comes into
completely play. Subjective.
Right, exactly.
No standards whatsoever.
If they would say, I don't like that song, then inside I would be saying, well, you're wrong.
Exactly. So you do have a standard.
Yeah. No, yeah, I think there's definitely stuff that I've written that I think, this is a good...
It's good.
Good piece of work. Yep.
Okay. Well, we go on then, and probably we should deal with this portion before we wrap up this segment, and that is the primacy of moral considerations.
Yes.
And this takes all of 221. Get us started on this, would you please, Jeff?
Marrou writes, on one level at least, this humanistic desire for an all-round education was always realized, i.e. on the all-important levels of morals. Classicism was not content with producing a man of letters or an artist or a scientist. It aimed at producing a man That is someone whose very way of life conforms to some ideal standard. And in this respect, it is a very useful model for us moderns. For our own educational system, with its increasing secularization since the time of the Reformation and the Counter-Reformation, has finally lost all sense of this.
That's an overstatement.
I think it's, but at the same time, when Marrou starts this section talking about morals, immediately my mind goes to, okay, morals based on what? Right? What's the benchmark?
Right.
Right. And he goes on to say things along the lines as well. Things are moral because Homer said them. So Homer becomes like the benchmark for morality. I think he's right in that modern education, certainly much more today than in 1956, has kind of thrown out any kind of concrete foundation for morality. It's become much more kind of postmodern and subjective.
Good point. I can't argue with that. Are you surprised?
That you can't argue with that?
I can't argue with that. Says Marrou, when the Greeks spoke about the training of the child, ton, paidon, agoge, what they really meant was essentially moral training. Very significant in this respect is the semantic development whereby, from the Hellenistic period onwards, the word pedagogue gradually changed its meaning until it came to have its modern sense of educator. The fact is that the humble slave who was known as the pedagogue was a more important person as regards the training of the child than the schoolmaster. The schoolmaster was simply a technician, and he only affected a limited area of the child's intelligence. But the pedagogue was with the child all day. He taught him how to behave, how to be a good boy, how to get on in life and society, all more important things than knowing how to read. We have made the school the decisive factor in education. For the Greeks, the decisive factor was the surroundings in which the child grew up, the family with its servants and friends. And then he's going to mention Homer, and I'd like to get your response to this. The same preoccupation with moral values can be seen in the more advanced stages of education. The grammarians who expounded Homer, the rhetors who taught the art of speaking, insisted in season and out of season on their author's moral virtues, on the moral value of doing their exercises, not to speak of the philosophers, who at this stage of Greek culture were not so much concerned with the inmost nature of the universe and society as with the practical inculcation of an ethical ideal, a system of moral values and a way of life in conformity with it. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, what this makes me think of, this might be too far afield for our discussion today, but we've talked about modern movements in classical education,
correct,
and the idea that that's out there that by following a classical education program rather than kind of your typical thing you find in a public school, will make you a better person.
Yeah, some of the things we talked about with Bob Stacy last week.
Yeah.
He's trying to train the whole child to be a good citizen. He doesn't really care what kind of job they get.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Right. So, here too, Marrou doesn't put it in terms of like imitation, but I think that's implied.
Yes.
And say that the particular authors that by the time we get to the Hellenistic period, authors like Homer, like Plato, they're so embedded, they're so kind of foundational that they become kind of the benchmark for what it means to be moral.
Right. Well, and I have to make a kind of a confession at this point, and that is that when I teach my students in different settings, and I'm not teaching any children at this point, anyone under the age of 18, for example. I'm teaching older folks. I have always tried to actually do some moral improvement as best as I'm able, but I have always resisted talking about it and making it a stated aim. I don't want people to know that this is what I secretly hope will happen through this instruction.
Right.
Because I think as soon as you draw attention to it, you ruin it, in the sense that I'm deeply skeptical that morality can be taught. It can be caught, in a sense, maybe by imitation, both of someone that we admire. And, of course, I try to then be that sort of person as the teacher, unsuccessfully. But if you make it a stated aim, you soon descend to all kinds of arguments about, what constitutes the perfection. And you distract students from what you really want them to do, which is learn the content. So I guess what I'm trying to say is I think you can provide actual moral instruction if you're deeply deceptive about it. What do you think?
No, I like that a lot. I think too is that the second that you announce that in this class you will become better people morally,
right?
You've already kind of put yourself kind of behind the eight ball.
That's right.
Right, and I think that encouraging students or holding up an ideal of a pursuit of truth.
Yes.
And looking at issues with a critical lens and considering facts and considering evidence. I think that's inherently moral.
Right, and you have to model it first.
Yes.
Not try to teach a technique, but show how it's done insofar as it is developed in you as a person.
Exactly.
So think about the way that you might teach your own sons some particular skill, right? I assume that maybe if they mow the lawn or they wash the car, you probably had a hand in showing them, look, this is how you do it. Of
course.
Right? You do that kind of stuff. But you don't start out by thinking, okay, I'm going to teach my kid how to wash the car, and in the process of washing the car, I'm going to instill in him deep and lifelong lessons about work ethic and honesty.
Yeah.
If you approached it that way, you'd ruin the whole exercise.
Of course.
I mean, you can kind of have it a little bit in the back of your mind, but you really have to focus on things like start at the top of the car, don't wash the white walls, and then put the dirty rag on the windshield.
Right.
This just doesn't work.
Exactly.
And so I think you can do that. That is, you can teach some of these moral lessons, but only if you don't make it your goal.
Yeah, exactly, right. And so, you hope that those kinds of things are kind of the natural fruit of doing the other things carefully. Yeah, without a doubt.
That seems to be what Marrou is talking about at the bottom of 221. To go back to him, I was wandering a little bit. School, for the Greeks, meant an enthusiastic little band of pupils centering around a well-known teacher and growing more deeply united as time went by as a result of living a more or less communal life and developing more and more intimate personal relationships. That's what school was supposed to be.
Right. That's interesting. I mean, I think that idea is still out there. The small school with the small classroom.
The micro school. It also happens at the undergraduate level. It's what I experienced in the classics department at Calvin.
Yeah, exactly.
I had as a student, I had tremendous respect for the men who were teaching me, right?
Yep.
And I just wanted to hang out with them and learn from them.
Right, and it was a small enough group of us that were kind of interested in the things that you got to know the other students and you got to know your professors really well.
That's correct.
Yeah.
The same happened for me in philosophy. And then there can be a similar sort of phenomenon at graduate school. It's harder to cultivate, however, because you have mercenary interests of, I got to get a job.
Right.
And there's a lot of money at stake.
Yeah.
In a way that undergraduate life doesn't feature.
Yeah, no, I was always envious of people who had a really kind of tight connection with their primary advisor on the dissertation. I did not have that. But I know for some people it became very idyllic, and that time spent with that mentor was wonderful and unforgettable. They look back to this as kind of a model of kind of how they want to be.
Right.
Yeah, and that seems to be what Marrou is describing here.
Yeah. Speaking of models of how we'd like to be,
yes,
it's time for the ad.
Right. Listeners, this episode of Adulthood is brought to you by Della Chelpka and her wonderful art. Listeners, are you ready for art that truly speaks to your story?
Yes.
You should need to meet Della. You should meet Della, a Tucson-based oil painter who captures the people, places, and moments you cherish with breathtaking detail. She has showcased her work in multiple galleries, illustrated books, and is often commissioned for standout projects. You can see her current works for sale at her website, dellachelpka.art. That's Della, DellaChelpka.art. To find your inspiration, visit that website, find one of the works, and you're going to say, I want this on my wall.
That's right.
And if you type in this coupon code, Apelles,
APELLES,
yes,
you can get 10% off your entire order and
free shipping
within the continental U.S. and the satisfaction of supporting great art and this podcast.
Yes.
So imagine yourself, listener, sitting in your little study cubby. You're gripping a cup of warm coffee. You're reading one of your Hackett texts, and on the wall opposite you is something beautiful that Della has painted. This makes life rewarding. It cultivates the whole man.
It does.
Go for it.
Go for it.
This episode of Ad Nauseam is also brought to you by Ratio Coffee. Mark Helweg, the entrepreneur with a Bachelor of Arts Education, humanities kind of student, he said, I can invent the world's greatest coffee machine. I can put it on people's countertops. It won't be squirty plastic or ugly. It'll be something aesthetically compelling, a work of art, if you will.
Yeah.
Then he did that. He invented the ratio 8. Jeff, you've got an 8?
I've got an 8.
The Millennium Falcon of coffee makers?
Exactly. I've had the 6, wonderful machine. I also have the 4 in my office.
What's the 4 doing in your office?
The 4 is for when I just need that 1 cup before I head off to class. It's my own little private machine. It is just for me. It's a beautiful thing. Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. All right, so I love that Hellwig, with his liberal arts education, he came out of that and said, I can do whatever I want.
Correct.
Right, exactly.
I'm versatile. I'm the leather man of coffee machine making.
Yeah, exactly.
So he made the 8, the 6, and listeners, we would like you to go to ratiocoffee.com/adnauseum, don't forget the V, and check out all the great products that Mark has. True, the 8 or the 6, they're going to set you back a little bit. Before I started using the Ratio family of coffee makers, I went through 7 or 8, I would guess, different kinds of squirty plastic coffee machines.
Yeah.
All of them are on the dust heap of history.
Indeed.
Now. Not one of them survives.
None.
But these things are solidly built.
Yep.
And they make great coffee.
Yeah, so invest in your coffee game. Go to ratiocoffee.com/adnauseum, and if you put in this coupon code, listener, ANRatio2026, Dave, that will get them
$20 off any machine of their choice. Check it out. Jeff, I'm looking for a publisher that'll keep me well supplied with books about potato chips, Doritos, Triscuits, wheat thins, wheat fats, barley thins, you name it. I'm looking for a publisher that will do that.
Well, I think I have the answer for
What is it?
I believe you need to check out Snackit Publishing.
Snackit Publishing with offices. Where do they have their offices?
Oh, man, if only this were true, Dave.
It's not true?
It's not true, but
I'm sensing a little bit of play acting in your voice, Dr.
A little bit.
Snackit Publishing?
Yeah, no Snackit Publishing, but there is Hackett Publishing.
Okay, tell me more.
One of our wonderful sponsors. I think it's our longest running.
Longest running.
Yep. Hackett Publishers have been bringing it to you for the last 55 years now. From their offices in Indianapolis, Indiana, Cambridge, Massachusetts, they are keeping the flame of classics and so many other corners of many other disciplines alive.
And lit.
Yes.
And now you can score some great books to add to your collection as you sit with your cup of Ratio coffee and you look at the wonderful painting by Della across from you by going to hackettpublishing.com, HACKETT publishing.com. Check out all the wonderful things that they have in the classics and other sorts of literary genres. Select the books you want, put them into your grocery satchel, and then, Jeff, they need to enter a coupon code at checkout. What is that?
That coupon code is AN2026. AN is in ad nauseum plus the current year, and that will give them 3 amazing things. That'll get you free shipping, 20% off your entire order, and, Dave, of course,
the ability to support and promote this podcast. Thank you very much. Okay, Jeff, as we resume things, the next section in Marrou's interesting chapter is Man as Such.
This is a very short little section.
Yes, let's just read the first part here. The object of education was the whole man, but man as man, not in any special form or any special part. It is worth noting in passing that in Hellenistic schools, sexual discrimination tended to disappear. In the earlier days, it will be remembered, this discrimination was very marked. But from now on, girls were normally brought up in the same way as their brothers.
Yeah, very progressive.
Yes, who would have thought?
Yes.
The man as opposed to the technician, the next section.
Our next section here.
Is this one that you're especially fond of? Could you pretend to be so?
To be opposed to the technician?
No, to be especially fond of the content in this section.
Well, we're going to find out.
Okay. So you want to just play it on the level?
Yes, I do. Right. Marrou writes, classical teaching was chiefly interested in the man himself, not in equipping technicians for specialized jobs. And it is this, perhaps, that most sharply distinguishes it from the education of our own time, which makes it a first aim to produce the specialists required by a civilization that to a quite fantastic extent has been invaded by technology and split up into fragments.
So we're back to de Tocqueville again.
Right.
In a democratic society, you need industrial technicians, doctors, physicians. the kinds of persons that do particular things.
Yes.
Rather than the education of the whole man.
Right. This conversation is, well, I think it's been out there for a long time.
Yes.
I think it's particularly loud now, as, traditional 4-year schools tend to be kind of, beyond.
That's right.
Have a price point that's beyond a growing sector of the population.
They're buckling under the pressure.
Right. And then kind of the push to go into the trades what am I ever going to use this for kind of thing. That's always been there, but I think I hear that a lot more these days.
Yes, I received some bad news just in the last couple of days. My alma mater, the University of Iowa, where I earned my PhD in classics, is eliminating its undergraduate Greek and Latin degrees.
Is that right?
Eliminating them altogether.
Wow.
Had to be one of the first subjects taught there in Iowa City,
right? Way
back in the mid-19th century when the university was established.
Man.
It was for farming and for Latin.
Yeah.
That's basically it.
That's awful.
It is.
Yeah.
Now, they're going to continue to teach the programs, but you can't major in it any longer. So unless this is reversed by the Iowa Board of Regents, it's very likely the classics department itself will disappear.
Man, have you been in touch with anybody you still know there?
Not since I got the news, but I'm planning to, and just kind of find out what's going on.
Man.
So this kind of ancient education, says Marrou, had no use for technique. It was not unaware of the possibility of technical development. It simply rejected it. Its one aim was to form the man himself, the kind of man who would ultimately be ready for anything, but had no special bias in any particular direction.
Right, so again, that jack of all trades,
the Leatherman.
Be prepared for anything.
Correct.
Yep.
Do you still think that's a worthy ideal?
I do. It's harder. I find it kind of harder to defend, particularly kind of in terms of kind of the climate that we're in today, because it's so undefined when it comes to describing the ends, right? Like the question of, well, what am I going to do with this? And to tell somebody, well, that's not the point of this. The point is to develop the whole person.
Right.
And then therefore you should be better equipped to do whatever you want.
Correct.
A lot of people don't want to hear that. They want to say, how can I turn this into a paycheck?
Yeah.
And that becomes the focus.
That's
they want the focus is on becoming a technician.
They want to have their cake and eat it too?
Yeah.
Okay, what about medicine? How does it fit into this broad category?
This is really interesting. This goes back to something we were talking earlier. So, Marrou writes, only medicine, because it had a more immediate social relevance and was thus the first to split off as a separate autonomous branch of learning, managed to develop its own particular type of training. And even so, the physicians seem to have been continually dogged by an inferiority complex. From Hippocrates to Galen, they go on saying, quote, the physician is a philosopher as well. So everybody wants to be a philosopher.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to claim that mantle.
Right.
Right.
But no one wants to live in a barrel, right?
Right.
In the case of the cynics.
Right.
There's just something appealing about it, right?
Yeah.
I don't think that doctors today have an inferiority complex, but some of the individuals I have encountered who are the most committed to the liberal arts are those who have a high specialization in something like medicine, engineering, dentistry. I think it's because, for one, they have the resources, but they kind of want to have a broader, richer life than the specialization gives them intellectually.
Yeah.
Right. So your brother's a doctor.
Yes.
Right? I'm sure he pursues other kinds of non-doctory things.
He does, many. Yeah, exactly. I think.
And does he articulate why?
I should ask him, but he has all kinds of outside interests that he dives into, and when you get together with him, the last thing he wants to talk about is medicine or somebody's throat, right? And he wants to talk about music. He wants to talk about Civil War history, and so I think my brother, whether he's kind of thought about in these explicit terms, definitely kind of has that idea of he wants to be educated as a whole man.
Right.
Yeah.
So then, Jeff, on 224, as he begins to wind down the chapter, he's talking about literary as opposed to scientific humanism, and he deals with the subject of poetry.
Yeah.
Says Marrou, the higher levels of intellectual life were only opened by poetry. Poetry was like a marvelous instrument that could cast a spell over men's souls, and in some unknown way give their hearts a kind of intuitive knowledge of truth and beauty and goodness. It provided a sort of experience that was infinitely varied, subtle, complex, something far above the strict proofs and pure concepts of geometry. It was a product of the sensitive mind, and this, in the eyes of the humanists, was far more important than the geometrical mind. Classicism regarded the educated man as someone whose cradle songs had been Hector's farewells, and the tales told in Alcinous's house, someone who had discovered the reality of human passion and the depths of the human heart in some chorus ending from Euripides, or a tale by an historian, which of course is not really poetry, right? Mm-hmm. Someone who had thus had some sort of psychological experience, some refining of his sense of moral values, of what is real and possible, of what man is and what the life of man.
That's fascinating. Mm-hmm. And I think quite at odds with where we are today, right?
Except for music.
What do you mean?
Well, I think that when we say poetry, I think we can substitute for it music. And this is something that I have noticed among lots of persons. Everyone who is young, say ages 13 through 20, it seems like almost everyone in that age bracket consumes a lot of music.
Yeah.
A lot of music.
If you want to call it that.
Okay. Well, they're not listening to Drama Queen by Jeff Winkler.
No, and they should be.
Yes, yeah. But as they age, for whatever reason, that seems to dial back a little bit.
Well, I mean, I was thinking in terms of recommending a major to a kid today, like major in music or major in STEM. Right.
Right.
That's what I'm saying is that.
But I'm trying to look a little bit deeper.
Well, but in terms of education, like formal education, we would not raise the literary over mathematics.
Definitely not.
No way.
Definitely not.
Right.
But I wouldn't want to think that on that basis, a kind of literary consideration or orientation, to conclude that on that basis, those things don't exist. I think they do exist. They just survive in an unexpected way.
Agreed.
They survive in young people especially. Their devotion, not to the performance of music, which I generally think is higher, but the consumption of music.
Yeah.
And so, yes, I mean, they're not reading Euripides, but if they listen to some pop song, they're having a Euripides-like experience.
Agreed.
You got to qualify that with a lot of things, because Euripides is high art, and I can't even name some pop individual that's being listened to today. Just to try would embarrass myself.
Right. Yeah. Same here.
But it is the same phenomenon, isn't it, Jeff?
I agree. Right. This just the section right above the passage that you just read. I thought this was interesting. He talks about the philosophers had failed in their attempt to drive him, meaning Homer, out of the state, and in the end they gave up trying. It was no use trying to put Euclid in his place. Euclid is no substitute for Homer.
Definitely not.
Right.
And it never will be. And everybody likes music. They consume it. I mean, young people consume it a lot. I think you and I consume a lot of music even as we have aged.
Without a doubt.
Right? I consume only music that was written before 1992, practically. Not entirely true, but that's the poetry, right?
Yeah, that passage about how those things can provide an intuitive knowledge of truth, beauty, and goodness. I'm all in.
Sure. Yeah. That's what the blues does, right?
There's something mystical about it.
Correct.
Yeah.
Or at least deeply intuitive and inexplicable?
Yeah.
Maybe that's the same as mystical.
Yeah.
So if I were someone who was teaching the kids the kinds of things that you were teaching them, I guess I would do what you're doing, which is in order to try to get them hooked on what I would consider higher art, Sophocles, Aeschylus, Euripides, try to reach something where they already are and then take them along and say, you can have the same kind of delightful aesthetic experience, but it's much more intellectually rich if you read Shakespeare or Dante.
Right. Yeah, right on.
All right. Well, two more quick sections and then we're done. The first is undifferentiated polyvalence.
What is this?
Come on, Jeff, you can do it. Sounds mathematical, but I don't think it is.
Okay, Marrou writes, but to return to the technical side of the matter, the classical ideal both preceded and transcended any specialized technical considerations. It preceded them because once the mind had been trained, it was pure power, completely free, ready for any demands that might be made on it. All right, so this is a...
Pure energy.
Pure energy. Remember
That's right, I do.
That was before 1992.
I don't know who that was, but catchy song.
Yes, that was the Information Society.
Oh, really?
The one and only hit.
I knew you would know it.
But right here, this is the grand kind of idealistic defense of the liberal arts. Right? If you are trained in all of these various areas, you're going to have the pure power to meet whatever demand the world throws at you.
That's right. One of the very first interactions I had with the future Mrs. Noe.
Yes.
And the current Mrs. Noe. But
yes.
At the time, she was the future Mrs. Noe.
That's right.
She sent me some article that fascinated her. And this was in the days before the internet, practically. So I think she handed me the paper.
Yeah.
And it's the main thesis of it was something like specialization is for insects.
What does that mean?
It means learn how to do a lot of different things. Learn how to sail a boat, how to write poetry, how to play an instrument. Learn how to solve an equation. I'm just making things up here because I can't remember all the specifics.
Right.
Right? Learn how to run a race, learn how to lift a weight, learn how to cook a meal, how to bake a pie. Specialization is for the insect world, right? Where there's thousands, if not tens of thousands of species that do very specific things. But a human being has got to be versatile in a very strange way.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's just youthful vanity. That really appealed to me and stuck in my memory.
Yeah. No, that's right on. I'm going to ask you a question. I already know the answer to it. But have you seen the film Groundhog Day?
Yes.
You have?
Wait a minute.
With Bill Murray.
Is this Bill Murray?
Yes.
Yeah, I have.
Right. I mean, that's the...
Why did you say you knew the answer?
Because you always say no to when I ask you these.
That's just because it's you.
Okay. But, that's the premise of the film, is that when he stops... living indulgently and attending to kind of his animal instincts.
Was he an insurance salesman or something like that?
No, he was a weather reporter.
Weather reporter.
And he's stuck living Groundhog Day over and over again.
So all of his non-weather reporting time, he was leading a basic hedonistic lifestyle.
Exactly, right. And it gets him nowhere. But once he starts to improve himself, he learns how to play the piano, he learns how to ice sculpt, he learns French. He does all of these different things, and ultimately... Of course, in the context of the film, that wins him the love of Madeline Stowe or Annie McDowell, who he's after in that film.
Right.
And that's what ultimately leads to him kind of living on to the next day.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
So here's another anecdote from the Annals of Vanity that are along the same vein.
Okay.
In my first full-time job, I was talking to a colleague, and she was intending to repaint her house, right? And I said something like, well, I could help you with that because I've done some painting. Mm-hmm. And she said, it was such a nice compliment. She said, I have no doubt you're very good at painting. Now, as it turns out, I'm not all that good at painting. But I have done a lot of painting in my life, mostly from being cheap.
Yeah.
Because it's not like plumbing. Yeah. You can slap paint on the wall.
Of course.
I'm only now to the point where I'll actually hire an expert because I've learned, that kind of specialization is good. And I can't do everything.
Right.
But at the time, it was a very satisfying compliment because she had thought, okay, he's good at these things that I know from his professional life. I therefore think he can probably paint a wall pretty well.
Right.
It was a compliment.
And she clearly recognized that you were a person who had a number of different interests.
That was nice.
And abilities.
I don't care about the interests. It's the skill. It's the skill.
The technical aspect.
That I was the Swiss Army knife or the Leatherman at that point. Yeah. I didn't go on to paint the house. Maybe she just kind of threw that out to throw me off the scent, thinking I'm going to hire a professional. Forget about it.
Gotcha. Yeah.
But it still was kind of nice.
Absolutely. Yeah.
The development of the whole man.
Yes.
So that's the polyvalence. Are we done with the polyvalence?
Yes. And so we're on to our last section here.
Beyond humanism.
Beyond humanism. Start us off with this day.
It's our sophomore album. The effectiveness of an ideal is not a matter of logic, and it is not easy to give a blueprint of the essence of classicism, for it did not in actual fact embody a single idea. Indeed, one of the great merits of its sensitive mind was its insistence that it is dangerous to push any idea too far, that practical achievement must be hedged by conditions. It never, for example, actually repudiated the old totalitarian ideal that had motivated the ancient city, i.e. the absolute dedication of the individual to society, though in fact it certainly went beyond this. What remained of this idea helped to give a certain amount of ballast to the rather nebulous idea that classical education had of man, and at the same time it served as a kind of bridge and introduction to the new totalitarian civilization which was to arise in the Spartantique, the late empire, and in Byzantium. Historians of civilization are continually coming across this curious phenomenon of superposition whereby things left over from an earlier stage turn out to be the basis for future developments.
So, I think he goes on to say that some of these ideals in the Hellenistic era of education, in the Roman era, come to be directed towards the state.
Yeah. So the totalitarian ideal lived on, right? That everything you do in the development of becoming a whole man, you can pretend it's for you, and when Alexander is beating everybody up, it really is only for you.
Yeah.
But it's still really for society as a whole.
Yes.
I think that's what he's saying. And then the Romans, they latched onto that idea, and so they then had a difficulty in developing some of the higher forms of art, I would say, because they don't serve any real politic use.
Right. Can that stereotype that the Greeks were the thinkers, the artists, and the Romans were the road builders.
That's right. And there's a lot of truth to that.
Yeah.
So that wraps up this. Maybe one final little quote here at the end of 226, page 226, Jeff.
Yes, Marrou writes, classical humanism was able to lead to, and did in fact lead to, a higher kind of greatness, by putting itself at the service of a higher cause, to which the human person was willing to consecrate himself and thus find fulfillment in self-transcendence. For classical humanism was not necessarily a closed system turned in upon itself. Even in antiquity, as we shall see in this next part of this history, there were two remarkable examples to disprove this. First, classical education put itself at the service of the state of Rome, in which the old city ideals burst forth again in a civilization still Hellenistic, and then later, when the empire became Christian, it put itself at the service of God. That's a nice kind of thread to kind of tell us where we're going.
Yeah, he has mapped it out very clearly. So this is the end of Greek. Two further developments, Roman, and then among the church fathers, how these ideals were put to Christian use.
Yeah.
So I look forward to coming back to Marrou at a later date.
Indeed.
But now, before we get out of here, Jeff, we have some business to attend to.
We do. Dave, our listeners out there, they are dying to learn some Latin and Greek, and I know just the man to help them, and that man is you.
All right, so go please to latinperdiem.com. Just this morning, I was grading some Greek assignments. I was grading some Latin assignments. My students sign up for these courses. They get the 10% discount by using the code 10+10PLUS. They take Moss Method, which takes them from tender little shoots that are...
I'm ready with my neophyte.
What'd you say, neophyte?
Neophyte.
Tender little shoots that are neophyte, all the way to full-grown, full-blown, fully developed Greek students that are...
erudite.
There you go. And the Latin students start ab initio, from the ground up, with Orberg's fabulous text, Familia Romana. I like to say that this is the best available value on the internet. There may be better teachers. It would be vain for me to say otherwise. But I think that the combination of the price point and the quality of instruction is unparalleled. And so go to the website, check it out, and get started. What are you waiting for? Specialization is for insects.
Indeed, indeed. And Dave, as always, we have people to thank. Who should we thank?
Let's thank Mishka Fernando, who turned around the previous episode in record time.
Amazing.
Makes us sound good, handles so much of the work that we don't want to or are incapable of doing so. Uncapable?
Uncapable?
Is that a word?
Incapable?
Yeah, she can spell also. So thank you, Mishka, for helping us with that. Then we have the musician.
Oh, yeah, Jeff Sheets, out of Kansas City. This guy's amazing. He's the man with the fingers you hear shredding across the fretboard.
That's right.
The intro, the outro, the bumper
Thrill
music.
Seeker and the Rush Hour.
Yep. Yeah, he's also a disc dogger.
That's correct.
Right, so this guy's, talk about someone who is...
he's a Renaissance man.
A Renaissance man.
Fly fisher.
He's a fly fisher, too?
Yeah.
Man.
In fact, one of his songs, I think it was called Lakota. Mm-hmm. He's descended from the Lakota Sioux.
Oh, really?
One of his songs, Lakota, you should listen to it. It's beautiful. Won some kind of a John Lennon composition award.
Fantastic.
It is a beautiful song.
Fantastic.
It's got the Sioux drums mixed in with his wonderful guitar stylings. Thank you so much, Jeff, for your generosity sharing your music with us.
Yeah. Hey, listeners, if you want a shout-out, if you have a question, you have a complaint, you can get in touch with us. You can write to Dave.
No complaints.
No complaints. All right, no complaints. But you can write to Dave at adnauseum.com. Don't forget that V.
Or Jeff at adnauseum.com. Do not forget the V in ad nauseum. There isn't a V in Jeff. For next week, what are we planning? I think it's a solid TBD.
It's a solid TBD at this point.
Okay.
Yep. So, but yeah, check out our website and pick up a T-shirt.
Yeah, don't forget to enter the contest to win a copy of the Complete Works of Aristotle. Mm-hmm. Send the code word Kontos, Kontos, in the subject line to dave@adnauseum.com to get yourself entered.
Yes.
Now, the Gustatory Parting Shot is a two-parter.
Oh, and this is yours, right? Yep.
Yeah, but you're going to have to help me here with this, Winkle, because you are the co-host.
Okay.
So it's not especially fascinating in terms of wit and such.
All right.
But it is authentic, and it's from Julius Caesar.
Oh.
So I'm going to read a little bit of Latin, and then I'd like you to read the public domain translation from Mick DeWitt and Bond, which is from 1869. So Caesar in De Bello Gallico, Book 4, Part 1, is talking about the Suebi, who are a German tribe, and their unusual diet.
Okay.
So he says, Neque multum frumento, sed maximum partem lacte atque peccar revivunt, multumque sunt in venationibus, quae res et cibi generet quotidiana exercitatione et libertate vitae, quod apueris nulla officio aut disciplina ad sua facti nihil omnino contra voluntatem faciunt, et virres alet et immani corporum magnitudine homines efficit.
All right. And this, in English, translates thusly: They do not live much on corn, but subsist for the most part on milk and flesh, and are much engaged in hunting, which circumstance must, by the nature of their food, and by their daily exercise and the freedom of their life, for having from boyhood been accustomed to no employment or discipline, they do nothing at all contrary to their inclination, both promote their strength and render them men of vast stature of body.
So there you go. All you have to do is eat a steady diet of milk and flesh. And have no basic instruction, and you'll grow huge.
You grow huge. Yeah.
All right. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.